Good morning, New Bedford Guide. Yes, it's still morning, 11 a.m. I get up around 4, so I can't tell whether or not it's morning or afternoon at this point. You know, I've been up for quite some time, 7 hours now. Great to see everybody again. Great to be back in the seat. I know I don't do this often, but when I do, it seems to be with this guy all the time nowadays. Superintendent Thomas Anderson, again, coming in, trying to be open and honest with the people in New Bedford to let them ask questions. I'm gonna say this right from the beginning. Please start firing in questions. I'm actually on my laptop here, and I'm gonna start following to see which questions come through, so that way I could answer them real time for you. The main purpose of this is that, and we're not going to necessarily have any type of agenda here. Literally, he just walked in and said, let's just chat. And that's what we're going to do here today. Talk about the state of the schools, where he thinks things are going, what the temperature is as far as, the school committee meetings. Some people haven't seen them. Some people have. Some people are like, hey, I heard my kid is going remote. We'll answer all those questions, and then whatever other questions you may have. I'd love to be able to answer questions. That's what mostly we're here to do today. I, for one, am hoping that this vaccine works for everybody. I'm not saying whether or not I'll take it. I just hope it works, and I hope that 2021 brings a little more positivity than 2020. It's been a tough year, and I'm sure Superintendent Anderson feels the same way. And we want to continue to stay hopeful, and really just today is more of an informative. I'm going to let him bring up what he wants to, and I'm also going to bring up my own personal questions. Again, I am not a resident in New Bedford. My wife teaches in the district, but I am a father of young children who are in school who are doing the same thing in another district. So no matter where you're from, you may learn a lot today from the superintendent, because I'm sure the data that he's sharing, especially from the state, is going to be the same as it is in your district. No further ado, Superintendent Anderson, how are you, sir?
Good afternoon.
Morning. Oh, afternoon for me.
Yeah. I think we've all been up for a few hours at this point, but no, I really appreciate always having the opportunity just to kind of have a conversation, have a dialogue. I know when we do, you put information out, do those video messages. I did one this morning. It's one-sided, so at least this way there's an opportunity for some two-way communication.
Absolutely.
And the biggest thing decided last week at the school committee meeting. When I went in, we look at the data, and I've shared with people there are several meetings per week that we have with the city's Department of Public Health, the local hospitals, and several others that are on those calls. And we discuss all the data, the influx of cases, if there are clusters, and any and everything about the COVID management piece that we cover. So what we really work to do is to see what's happening in our buildings. That's my job, to make sure that we're on top of those things. And making this shift, I just wanted to be clear with people, we're not making the shift temporarily because there was an outbreak. Making that shift because a lot of staff end up being contact traced.
Yes.
So being a close contact in a definition that we've used through the Department of Education, but through the CDC. And so again, just kind of just seeing if there are any questions about that, to make sure we're always going to be transparent.
100%.
It takes too much energy to not be clear and try to hide things. And so looking at the numbers of staff that were out this time last year compared to this year, it's a dramatic increase. And it's not to, and I always try to say, this is not to blame our staff or say anything about that. These are just the numbers. This is what it is that we're dealing with. And when you go from already being challenged with substitutes, normally it makes it a little bit more of a challenge, now, especially this year. So
last time you were here, last time I had they're doing construction at the Economic Development Building, and literally, I've been here for an hour now, Josh, and not a hammer swung. As soon as we get going, right next door, there go the hammers. Sorry about that.
That's all right. But it's and really that's what it is. Again, just seeing if there are any questions. So just real quick, what we had done, we shifted to having it. Of course, the parents know already, but today, which is the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, we've gone full distance. So our full distance learning academy. But when we return, for January 4th. So January 4th through January 8th will also be full distance days for all students. So no cohorts are going to meet in person. So January 11th is when we resume our normal hybrid schedule. Cohort A students, which is our students who have the most amount of needs we're working with, they're in for 5 days. None of that changes. And our other cohorts, so B and C, they pick up with their 2 days in person and their 3 days virtual at a distance.
Yeah, the
and then I'm going with that piece. And cohort D, who are already fully distanced, they remain the same. And so one thing and again, did want to share that we know that since from November to December, as we track the different numbers and shared it at the last school committee meeting, we probably had an increase of about 400 to 500 students where parents decided they'd shift from the in-person to just the distance learning platform. And I think when we look at how we've been able to serve our parents and our students with providing some options, so of the 8 largest districts in the state, at one point we were the only one, and it's not to speak negatively about anyone else, or because every city has its unique challenges that they're dealing with. My point was to say that, look, New Bedford has been able to serve many students in person, but parents also had the option of keeping their student home.
Yeah.
So we've been able to balance that, as we've gone through. So right now, for a long time we were serving close to about 9,700 students, a little less than 10,000 in person on those days. And we started initially as a little over 3,000, and it went up a little bit for different needs. And as a parent, you're going to be anxious, and the concern is, well, the numbers in the community, the numbers in the state continue to go up. I have to do what I think is in the best interest of my child.
So you're giving them options to do so.
Exactly. And I get that 100%. I mean, I shared before, I'm a parent. We need to make sure we're doing what's in the best interest of our children. If there are, people will say, well, underlying health concerns. I mean, I'm asthmatic. It's not really underlying. It's things can trigger it. I mean, it's right there, it's right there in your face.
Yeah, 100%.
So we just have to have that level of understanding, but knowing that we take the academic piece seriously. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. It's what do we need to do right now to make sure students that are coming into the building, they get everything they need. Those students that are home, they're getting everything they need. And it's, we're still getting better at it.
Yeah.
We didn't perfect the in-person learning. I mean, no one can be fooled to say, hey, everything in person was perfect. And we know it wasn't. And that's why, we do the job that we do to keep pushing that along and making sure that we're getting better with it. And,
So
I just wanted to highlight.
What's the thoughts on, come a day when we're doing, hey, it's an option for these kids to just come in at all. Are you always going to now, not always, but until COVID is fully gone, are you going to just say, all right, yeah, we're going to open up the schools 100%, but we understand that there's going to be a small portion that still want to do the remote. Is that something that you guys are speaking about and already saying, hey, we're going to continue to do this and let it be an option?
So 2 things. One, it won't be completely a local decision in terms of the guidance regarding, we're still sticking to the 6-foot distance and those type of things. So when that does change, we're going to, to me, we will be ready. We have things in place. We'll know we'll be able to take care of that. So that's that one piece. The other part is we're going to maximize using the distance learning components, because if we think about years ago, a lot of the colleges and universities, when they came out with online learning and people are able to work all day and get their degrees at night, I'm not saying we're shifting to that type of platform, but we do have some students who have different challenges. And I'm thinking, okay, if we can provide for you and you can tap into this because of, they have a diagnosed illness and they need to be out for an extended period of time, instead of them getting books and a tutor goes to, home and hospital tutoring and those type of things, and they're able to tap into the classroom the way they are now and get that live instruction, why would we not do that? So we've already worked in terms of investing in the devices, so the Chromebooks and laptops, they have the access. We've been pushing, again, I'm always going to say yes, because there's always going to be someone to say, hey, well, we don't have that. I'm like, we should have the devices. We're still working for better internet connectivity. Yeah. So those are some things we're still trying to support with. But no, there are many components of this that we've learned that will be beneficial. We can't go back to doing school the way we did before.
No.
I think this is I don't know if you say a silver lining. I just look at it as we have to learn from this. a couple, there's a few things we need to learn from it.
And even bad situations are learning situations.
Exactly.
In life, I tell everybody, oh, I'm going through a bad spot. What are you learning from it?
Yeah.
What have you learned from this? Not just poor me, besides poor me. Like at some point you got to say, you got to come out of a bad situation. You got to come out of that valley and say, I've picked up this, and this. And I'm certain that, through your leadership, I'm sure, I've spoken to you on the side. That's something that you're looking to do is pick. Have we virtually eliminated snow days, though? But go ahead. Finish your point before we get to the snow days.
Yeah, we're talking.
I was just having fun.
I'm going to make a note about the snow days. No, but I was going to say, as far as the parent conferences, I'd always wanted to do something where, parents work. I don't care what kind of job you have. It's going to be a challenge no matter who you are to get into a school at a certain point. And I know school is school. Sometimes it's in the middle of the day and we're having to, some people you can't just, I can run over there for 15, 20 minutes and do the conference and go back to work. You need to almost take the entire day off. So having where we can do those virtually and people can tap into it. I know, I shared that some of the principals said that, they had more participation. Parents are able to participate more. Yeah. I never think it's not about them not wanting to attend and being able to do that.
No, it's tough. You got to cook dinner. You got to work. You got a million other things.
There's so many competing factors, and I think we need to do a better job at being creative. And I think this really opened the door because someone steps out at their lunch during their break and they can have that parent conference for 15, 20 minutes, find out some details about things, have a live interaction with, sometimes if the student is right there, they're able to have that discussion right there. So
yeah.
Snow days.
That was my question, because I sat back, when I saw my district, you came right out and said, it's a snow day. Go outside. It's been a rough year. Go sledding with your kids. In Dartmouth, it was kind of like, we're sending homework for the snow day, and you're going to do it. And then all of a sudden, they kind of were like, oh, man. Anderson just went in, because they went next door in Dartmouth. Anderson just said that, go enjoy the snow. Forget it. We're just kidding. They kind of were like, we're just kidding. But I mean, here's the thing. The snow day's cool. But if we start getting to the point where we were a couple years back, where, I mean, nowadays they cancel on a little ice. I'm not going to get into the softness of this generation, but whatever. But man, it got up there.
Oh yeah,
and then all of a sudden we're in July going to school. Close to it. So maybe this can be another part of it.
And it will because part of it, their timing right now, and we know the level of anxiety and stress that people are under. And the other part is we still have to be ready. It was going to be too much snow because our expectation is that staff drives in. They'll be coming in until we come back in January for that remote, for that distance week. All staff are expected to come in and they're doing the lessons from the classroom. And not all the other districts do that. And again, I'm not speaking, I don't know specifically how they handle it, but I always want to, if we can, we're always going to be able to announce it the day before. And we're depending on a meteorologist or working with the city. They have a lot more, they have more access to some more as reliable as it can be when you're dealing with the meteorologist and those type of things to really see.
Imagine being able to be as wrong as a meteorologist and keeping your job.
Yeah, I know. But the
but you try to do your best on it. 100%.
And it's and it will. If we're adding up those days, we do need to look at it to see how do we maximize it, because we have to be honest with ourselves. Massachusetts, it still gets, we know it's Massachusetts and it gets cold, but it does get hot. And you think about the teaching and learning process. How strong is it when everyone's mental state is someplace else? And if we're really thinking about having people focus and maximize the time that they're in there, we have to rethink how we do lots of things. And just having seat time and making someone sit and listen to something, people will say, well, that's not the best way to do it, but then we keep doing it. It's like we need to change it really and not just talk about it. And that's what we've been looking at as a team. I mean, for the last several months, we had talked about as the numbers were increasing prior to Thanksgiving, well, maybe we could have used a week after Thanksgiving and do that as a distance week. But the momentum we had was too strong. Students were coming in. I mean, everything was just going in the right direction. And we knew where our gaps were. We were still fixing those. But we just got to the point now when we're looking at those absences, students and staff, now is that time to go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to make this shift. Basically, we'll be away from each other for about 3 weeks. We'll come back on January 11th. Well, hopefully everything else is caught up in terms of, the vaccination isn't going to be some immediate,
No.
an
I mean,
immediate
gosh,
remedy.
you gotta take one shot, then a month later
Exactly.
take another one, so.
But,
It brings up a good point,
Mm-hmm.
because now we're gonna, what I was talking to you about earlier, and it's kind of a good segue, like, the numbers have kind of spread out a little more, but prior to latest
Yeah.
updates, kids that were in school versus kids that were out of
Yeah,
school,
yeah.
the infection rate was close.
Yeah, it
Of
was, it
course,
was.
the ones, and families as
Mm-hmm,
well. So, but now it's starting to look like the in-school kids are getting a
Yeah,
little more,
yeah.
not so much, but it is. And now we're heading into, and I think that's an effect of Thanksgiving.
yeah.
I really do. Like now, if you look at the incubation period of 10 to,
And now the numbers
7
are-
to 14 days, the numbers are starting to go up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're in Christmas. Same thing's going to happen again. So I think that this shift to
Mm-hmm.
to starting school on the 11th will actually fight that.
That's what we're hoping.
That's all part of it. I'm sure that was in the thought process.
Yeah.
These kids are going to go A, Y, Z, and here and there for, we're going to Rhode Island, we're traveling, we're doing our thing. So,
Yeah.
there's going to be an incubation period. So from the 25th to the 11th,
We have some time.
pretty much nails
Yeah.
that incubation
And that's what
period.
the thought was, because when we're looking at students will be out, so everyone, so students and staff will be out of school from officially 24th, and it would have been until whatever that, the 3rd, we're going to come back on the 4th. That was going to be, I think it was 11 days.
Yeah.
So if you add the other 3, which counts for these 3 right here, that makes it 14.
And then you add it on the other
And
end.
actually, adding the other week, it helps. And there is still so much with this about personal responsibility. We all have to be mindful of what we're doing. I have my mask here. We're still distant and those type of things, but that's what we do. I wear it when we need to have it on. We have to be mindful of it.
Yeah.
And as I shared before, it's I don't have people in my house have asthma. I have it. So there are those things that are in the back of our mind to say how do we balance this? But I think what that does too, it makes it where you have to be humanistic and compassionate about it. We can't say that, well, because someone is not going to do something, that it's an exaggeration or it's overboard. And I'm thinking, no, we can't control how people feel. We can control some of the parameters and some of the processes that we put in place to help people feel better. And I think that's been the objective since we started talking about planning for this year in July.
Yeah.
How do we make sure, I shared before, at this point, we should have either close to or slightly over about 800 of the standalone air purifiers and scrubber machines that are in those classrooms. Our teams did a lot of work in terms of with some of the windows that, for whatever reason, hadn't been operable, they took care of and fixed them. Any of those areas where we're shifting funds to cover other things as a priority, then we're not using those spaces. And I said that from the beginning, and we're not. If the airflow is not in there the way it should be, then we haven't used those spaces. And so I just want to reiterate that point so that way parents still know. No, we didn't forget about those things. What I said before, we've stuck to that. We've all of our protocols. In fact, we've gotten better with them, and that's why the contact tracing. We're really. It's high energy. It's very time consuming, as it should be.
Yes.
But our team is very thorough. And that's why individuals may be classified as a contact, when we're doing the contact tracing, they have to be out. And we're following through on it. And again, we're going to make sure we're leaning on the side of everyone's safety. So we also, I'll mention this because we know that the CDC, I can't speak to because there's 3 different areas, I guess you could say levels, that the CDC has changed to in terms of the contact tracing. So now individuals may be able to come back a little bit sooner if they were not a direct contact or someone didn't exhibit symptoms and those type of things. So I'd say to people, go on the CDC's website. It's easier just to read it on there so you can process it.
Yeah.
It's not, for me to translate it doesn't help. I need to make sure we're clear
With
on
students and staff, what's the city's protocol with people leaving the state?
Whatever the governor has put out there. No, that's the same thing. Yeah, exactly. That's the
So you're
same thing.
following governor's guidance on that. So.
And of course we know that you can't make individuals do certain things, and that's why we'll try to emphasize. Look, if we want the teaching and learning process to continue as we need it to, and make sure our students aren't falling behind, we just have to be smart about it. Just be mindful. I mean, if you have that need and you have to go, just put all the protocols in place. Wear the mask, keep the distance, be outside. All those type of things are going to help. So,
Now, we had spoken earlier about more kids going fully remote. Is it enough that we can, and then we also spoke earlier, I don't know if you heard, part of the whole contact tracing, folks, that we're talking about, so if a teacher in the school tests positive or a family member tests positive, that teacher has to leave. Also, people that were in close proximity with that teacher also have to leave.
Yeah.
So in this case, for example, that I just stated, there might not even be a teacher that's positive, but because of being around each other, so now you got 2, 3 teachers that are gone that aren't even sick at all, that are actually testing negative to come back, but you've lost 3 teachers for X amount of days because of this, and that's a safety protocol.
Exactly, and that's what it's been more about.
Yeah.
Because someone comes in, and you have to be, if you're within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes.
You guys got to log it all in.
Exactly, everything has to go in there, and there's really no option. Our thing is, that's what it's going to be, and the hope is that no one else tests positive beyond the individual who was initially positive.
My wife says, when people knock on my door, I'm like, get out! I don't want to log in. Just stay away.
No, it's true.
It's true, man. You don't want to. The less people, you're just like.
And that's I've limited.
You go out and you get it. Now I got to stay home, get this thing stuck up my nose and tickle my brain, and like I'm good. I don't want stay out of my room, please.
And that's why I've limited visiting as many buildings and those type of things, because as much as you want to do it, you just have to be smart about the whole thing. And, you go into classrooms, and we go in, you sign in, you do all the different things.
No, she says it's strict.
Yeah. And part of it, you don't want to make people, you don't want to raise anyone else's anxiety too. And that's part of it, is kind of understing what everyone's
But to
doing.
my point of that, if we're losing the kids and they're going, fully remote, are you guys starting to consolidate a little bit? To make, because we're short on substitute teaching and we're short on teachers at this point, right? So I guess consolidation would be the next.
Well, see, that we didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
See, part of it in the beginning, when we're talking about kind of have these bubbles, you're in the classroom next door, my classroom's here, teachers out. The objective was to keep me and you away from each other to do that, and so we were running out of options to get to that point when teachers were, end up having to be out for whatever reason. And this is the other part. We say that the contact tracing has impacted more of the staffing, but it's still December. People still get sick. Our children still get sick.
And the symptoms are the symptoms.
Exactly, and it could have nothing to do with COVID-19, but. And then other things happen. All the snow we had, people hurt their back. All of those things combined with this. So again, I just want people to be clear. It's not as though there's just this sudden spike of COVID-related things, although that impacted it. But we still had people that would normally be out. And we always struggled getting substitutes anyway. Yeah. And especially now, it's more of a challenge because...
Are we able to ease the guidelines for substitute teachers now? Is this something the state's working with? So, I remember before you'd have to have a bachelor's. Is this something where it could be an associate's, and as long as you pass, obviously the background checks and all that stuff, right?
They're willing to support the districts in whatever, kind of like in whatever we need. But it's not really that. It's just the sheer numbers of individuals available to substitute just aren't there. And that's actually been the challenge over, even before I came to New Bedford.
Yeah.
It's been the challenge over the years. Even when I was a principal in Maryland, it's one of those things. But I think DESE has been, DESE is the state organization. There are things that they have to monitor and enforce. But in terms of working with New Bedford, they've listened to us. They've, they've been supportive. So I'm not concerned with that.
So if you want to be a substitute teacher, who do you reach out to?
Our Human Capital Services office.
So, look it up, NewBedfordPublicSchools.org. You'll find it in there, and if you don't, I'm sure there's a contact us there and sign up. You really want to help out the kids in school and keep them going to school, because there's a lot of people here. Keep the kids in school, open it up. And part of it is having the staff to do so.
Exactly. And with that, before I forget, with the substitute teaching, we shifted a little bit this year, so it's not individuals. If we're both subs, and today you're at Hathaway and tomorrow you're at Keith, we're shifted away from that. So you'd be hired as a building-based sub. So for anyone listening, if there's something you're interested in doing, you would be assigned to one building. So you're not going to be going around, because within that one building, we're still struggling to get enough people in there to be able to cover. So if anyone's thinking it's not the traditional substitute format where you bounce from building to building. That's what we're not doing that right now.
That's actually a plus because waking up in the morning and trying to figure out where you're going to go to work that day is a hassle. So here you're hired for Taylor School. You're going to Taylor School every day.
And we still need 60 credits for substituting, so I get a little...
All right, 60 credits. So, you know, these people that are really affected by this, bartenders, waiters, waitresses, you know, service industry, photographers, DJs, hey, if you're looking for something, they're hiring, and you never know. It might be something that spins off what you really want to do in life.
It'll be a little different than bartending, but, you know, if you have those 60 credits...
Not really. You got to listen to everybody's problems. And
there'll be no service.
Yeah. And you got to serve, and you got to provide service. So I mean, it is different, but every job has its common thing.
Exactly.
You're there to listen, you're there to do a job, and you're there to provide.
It's about communicating, and if you're able to, you know, have that dialogue. Get some questions over there.
No, my girl Kelly, always here listening. She works for you. She puts down the link if you guys want jobs. It's in the description.
Okay, good.
She's on it. You know, I was looking at the dates and. The participation. I don't really have anything else. I know you always do. You always come prepared.
Oh yeah, there are a couple things I can
with some
touch
stuff. So I know that we're probably hitting 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
All right. So if you got questions coming in, let it in. Of course, Denise is a fan of yours, and she says, you know, I feel like this guy gets his qualifications. He keeps everybody united, and I feel the same way. That you can definitely see the difference.
Good.
I'm married to a staff member. And I am friends with people in the system, and they like your approach and how you are more aware of their needs as well as the district's needs as teachers. You know, and we've talked about that. You know that you need your staff, and you treat them accordingly.
And I appreciate that. And the thing is, though, when we look at it, you know, I had all those jobs. When I was in grad school, I was a substitute teacher in D.C., and then, you know, taught summer school. We did those things. You become a teacher, an assistant principal. So I have I'm always thinking of it as, how is it going to impact the individual in the classroom? How are the teachers going to be able to live through this? And it can't be where we do things that you can live with it. And then I'm always thinking, okay, as a principal, how's that going to impact them to support their teachers? How are we going to be able to do that with staff as we're looking at all those things that are there? So, but the other part I want to, you know, touch on too is, you know, the COVID management has really, you know, illuminated some things for us to see, hey, we're really effective in these things. Yeah, we still have some areas over here we still need to work on. But also letting people know, look, we're still planning for next year. We're still planning, you know, budget-wise and making sure that the curriculum revisions that are in there, the strategic plan has been updated. We're still having our community forums, so to speak. We're doing it just online now, online, virtually. We're doing the breakout rooms and those type of things. Very similar to what I did when I first came in 2 years ago. We had groups of people meet to go through all the goals and objectives of the district plan. You know, we had teachers on there, we had students and staff, you know, and a lot of other people. And just really looking at, you know, we're talking about the, you know, college and career readiness. Well, what does that look like now? Are we preparing our students to navigate through what we're living in right now, but in a few years? So how are we doing dual enrollment, working with Bristol Community College and with Bridgewater State, and, you know, we also have another partnership with Boston College, Lesley University. So all those things have not stopped. So I want people to know that this is a lot. We have people that are working on, you know, we're having to do some things, paying people to work on Saturdays and Sundays to take care of all the contact tracing, making sure that, you know, when we're looking at what are the supports that are needed for our students or our English language learner students or our students with IEPs, that goes without saying. But do we have that complete trajectory? Because the college application process has not, it's changed, but it's still there. Students are still going to graduate from high school and still want to get into that college that they wanted to get into
of course,
before all of this. So all of those things are still in place. We've tried to put a video together about just the application process right now and just kind of highlighting it. So, you know, and I thank Bernadette Coelho, the head of school at the high school, for, you know, understanding, because we have these ideas, and I know sometimes you're like, look, it's one more thing, but they get it, and they understand the level of communication that we're trying to put out there. And there are some awesome things that happen at the high school all the time. And so as we're working with our middle schools and the elementaries, they have this trajectory, this through line. So when we're talking, I know the questions always come up about MCAS, and
that's, you know, actually, here it is.
And so, I mean, I didn't even see it. And so MCAS, right now, we don't know what's going to happen. So it seems like we can say, well, it's only December. Yeah, it's December, but in a way it is only December because, there's going to be a new administration coming in. The current administration for, presidential administration, they weren't going to give another waiver for this year. And so right now, that's why there's no decision, as right now the test it's supposed to occur. Not for all levels, but that's kind of where we are. So when the new administration comes in, the whole thought process might change. So DESE has to get a waiver to get approval and there's all these other things that are so far beyond the individual school systems immediately. Yeah. So we need for them to go ahead and take care of their part. So when parents ask, right now honestly, we don't know. So for me, it's plan for it. But I also think of this though, MCAS, MCAS is a data point along the way. MCAS is not the ceiling for us. Yeah. And I don't believe in, schools can do it, I let them do what they think is best for their building, and they can do pep rallies and be excited about it. That's great. But for me, I'm looking at it as a data point along the way. And I'm looking at when they're taking the SAT or AP classes or getting ready to get into this other program and those type of things after high school. That has to be our measure. And I want people to really start shifting their thinking away from MCAS being, it's important. So I'm not going to minimize it. It's very important. It's a skills test. We have to do well on it. But it's not the end. And so when people say, well, what about MCAS? I'm thinking, yeah, we need to be preparing our students academically so they have the content, but also so they're not anxious and nervous about going in there taking this test that they think is going to that's going to be the culmination of who they are as a student. I'm thinking, no, because you still have 2 years before you graduate. And those 10th graders take it. There's still 2 more years of
Yeah, there's time.
Exactly. So that's another thing. But again, there's a lot of work. I don't want people to think, oh, well, we're not going to focus. No. You focus on the skills that they need. We focus on how do we cultivate them as a complete student, so that way when it's time, it's like, okay, we're going to go take that, and it's going to, it's almost like a scrimmage for the rest of the things that we need to keep doing.
Kind of on that line, are we easing grading, to put it as simple as possible for people to understand? Are we taking into consideration the challenges of learning remotely for these children, of not having the structure, not having, and that's what I wrote down a note and I forgot what the heck.
That's all right.
What I some shorthand, some Portuguese shorthand here, and I forgot what it meant. So, there's that part of it, and also the shorthand part of it was the one-to-one that's now required, where a teacher has one-to-one time. I don't know how you can find the time in a day to accommodate that.
Yeah. It's a challenge. I'm going to be completely, going to be honest about that. It is a challenge. We know that it's not happening as frequently everywhere, but that's something that we'll be able to get to. When it comes to, so no, we're not easing the grading. I think what it is, people are being more understanding of the challenges that are going into the work that a student needs to complete. We have a better understanding that now I don't have you in front of me in a classroom where I can control the distractions that you have in there for the most part, but now you're at home.
Yeah.
And we can't control the environment that you have there, and that's why our partnership with parents and really working to say, hey, this is what we can provide at school. If we're going to hold them, because you as the parent and me as the educator, we still have the highest expectations for our students, and we just have to live through that. So, students may not want to hear it, but I'm like, no, we're not cutting any corners when it's coming to the grades. But I'm always thinking, what does a grade mean anyway? Even before we got into this, what exactly are we, what does it mean? So if a student gets an A or they don't get this, have they mastered and do they understand the content? And the more we think about that, our students will not, I think we can maximize a lot of how the platform is now, because the content isn't going to change. Our interaction is going to change. Yeah. I'm not going to see all of your body language. I'm not going to see some of your facial expressions and knowing, okay, he gets it, but he doesn't get it. Let me check in with him. So those are some of the more challenges as far as...
100%. I can imagine. I'm on Zoom meetings all the time. And, when I'm doing my one-to-ones, like I told you, I got a 32-inch monitor that I focus on my clients, right?
And you can see a lot,
my real world job, not my co-host job, whatever this job is that we do here. Yeah. So I'm able to kind of, and I did that purposely so I can see it big. But when you're looking at, the team meetings where there's the speaker's big and then you got 30 little boxes, right? Yeah. I don't know what 30 kids are doing. I don't know if they get it. Yeah. When you're looking, I substitute taught 20 some odd years ago. So, you'd see if kids were what they were up to just by picking your head up. So you don't have that anymore. No. You can try your hardest,
Yeah.
but you just don't have that interaction. So I think that's part of my follow-up with the one-to-one. Are
Yeah.
we getting the teachers, is there enough hours in the day in order to really say, hey, Johnny, how you doing today?
Yeah, it's going to be a new way of doing things, and there is that struggle. There is no way that you can replicate or replace in person.
Human interaction, yeah.
You just can't. And that's what it is. It's mainly about the human interaction. The content, again, I want people to hear, the content doesn't change. You can still learn algebra. You can still learn.
The vehicle.
Exactly. But it really comes down to that human interaction. So when individuals say, well, the online piece or the virtual isn't as good as in person, the human interaction piece has to be upgraded, and how do we figure out how to better do that? But our students should not be being slighted about the content. Algebra is not going to change. What a noun and a verb and learning fractions, actually I've been able to see some things, and some students have actually been able to engage a little bit more intently because by your being that face on the screen, sometimes now I can see you versus in a larger room. So there's a lot of balance, and there's some very good opportunities that we can take away from this.
What else you got? I want to make sure I don't slight you. He walks in here and he says, I got nothing really to say. It's a free forum, but he walks in with, you can see all those papers he's going through.
Yeah, there's more on the floor. But I just always appreciate being able to come in and just having an informal discussion about it. I mean, we shared about different numbers and those type of things as far as data, but I think for this, we can talk about data and certain numbers all the time. I think what's really missed as we all struggle with this situation is that human piece of it.
Yeah.
And knowing that we're all stressed, there's a high level of anxiety, but we don't want it when we look at this in 3-4 years and really do a deep dive, because we'll still be figuring things out and say, you know what, we really missed an opportunity to make sure our students didn't lose a step. And I think that's what we're doing now, and I think that's why so many of our people, they feel it, and the level of anxiety and stress, because they're nervous. They don't want our students to lose a step. I mean, we have a great team of teachers, and everything I always hear, it's not so much about cutting corners and trying to make it easy. They want to make sure that they're getting their students as much as they can.
Yeah.
And we think about how we're going to be able to look ourselves in the mirror and say, I did everything I could, and that's what I want to make sure that we do. And we talk about you lead by example and all those type of things, but that is what it has to be. And I don't look at some top-down thing. I look at everything as far as, we're all people in this. We know who has what titles and all those things, but we have to be willing to work together and truly partner, and not just have lip service and say, hey, we're doing this. My thing is, don't tell me what you're doing, describe it.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear the trendy terms and the 5,000 acronyms. It's like, what exactly are we doing? Let's see it. Let's go.
Kind of,
if it's not working,
you want cake, come to me.
Exactly.
You want the ice, and go to the bakery. That's how I am. Yeah. Sometimes it comes off a little rough, but hey,
exactly.
I'll tell you that you'll know where I'm coming from every time. There's a question here about the flu and flu shot for children. What's the cutoff date? It's supposed to be the 31st. What's going to happen to the children who don't get it in New Bedford?
So we emphasize the date is December 31st. The expectation is that all students are supposed to have the flu shot by December 31st. However, I'm not going to keep our students out of school because they weren't able to get the flu shot when they're coming back to school in January, so January 11th. But I had a number, but we finished the last flu clinic on the 18th, so Friday. We'll be scheduling some more, but it's not going to be until after everyone comes back. So all that in short to say, my expectation is that students will still be in school. It's a local decision. The governor's office, their team says everyone has to have it, and we're supporting that because it is something that's important. However, I'm not going to make it punitive where students aren't able to come into the building. So, it's the parent. I get it. I mean, the parents you're going to be the parent, and you're going to make that decision what you think is best in that situation. So, but again, still try to get it.
No, excellent. Yeah, I mean that's something. I'm a personal liberties type of guy, I want the people who are getting this vaccine to be successful with it.
Exactly.
I 100% do.
Yeah.
My children are vaccinated for the flu. I will not be running out for the
vaccine.
I won't, and it's a personal decision of mine. Anything that's done warp speed, and you throw warp speed into something, and then you throw no long-term studies on it. Yeah. I'm hesitant, right? And that's just me. But I want to be able to be accepted for my decision, in my opinion. Just like I want you to say, I'm running. There was a lady at the gym. I'm going tomorrow. Hey, I hope it works for you. I have clients who went. I gotta go. I'm like, I hope it works for you, Mrs. T. And I appreciate you, and I want you to make that decision on your own. So I appreciate that from you on the whole. Listen, we're not going to make it punitive. Kid has it, he has it. If he doesn't, we're going to try to still love him.
Exactly. I mean, and the thing is, again, we know the health experts, and I'm not into. My job is not to be political, and it just isn't. I have the best interests of all of our students at hand. We don't talk about the other side of it. Whoever mom or dad voted for, that has nothing to do with what we need to do. And the other part is making sure that when we think about the vaccine, having individuals that can share objectively what's real right now. So that way, even when it comes, I'm sure they did this when the flu shots came out years ago, and so now it's okay. This is what's being said. Here are the individuals that we'll bring in to be able to share. Hey, this is what the data says. I can't dispute that part of it. Everyone can disagree and say, "Well, I don't believe it." I'm like, "Oh, you may choose not to believe it."
Yeah.
But this is what we have right there.
Yeah, I'm about facts and data, right?
Exactly.
And I'm 100% about it. If something's like I told you at the beginning of the show, I said, there isn't much of a disparate, difference between the kids that are learning from home, and he says, "Well, it's starting to change." I said, well, throw the numbers. Show me, and I don't have that ego issue. Like if a guy like you says these are the numbers, those are the numbers. It is what it is. Exactly. Like I want you to show me. Like what am I gonna? You're lying. You made those numbers up because of an agenda. Like no, that's not me.
And
right?
the numbers are going to speak for themselves. Oh, and one last thing about that, because what we do when we're sharing, when we're logging in the numbers of students or staff who tested positive, we're including people that may not have been in the building for a couple of weeks. I decided right in the beginning so that way the data is the data. We're not scrubbing it. We're not doing those things. So if an individual was in the school building for an hour, that's it, and they tested positive, we still count that individual in our data. It makes the numbers a little bit higher, it makes people a little bit anxious, but I'm thinking, I don't want us to be picking and choosing. We're not deciding who we're going to count and who we're not going to count. So when we look at that, some are, close contacts. Many had no close contacts at the school level because they hadn't been there. But I definitely wanted to touch on that because if people are able to see the tracker and they see where the numbers have gone up and this school has this and this school has this, and then for some
who are these people that are just going to be in for an hour? Right? Is it
that was hypothetical. But we did have a student that had come to school, and they were there only for a few hours because they had been tested. They didn't stay home. We find out. And then they're go from the building.
I thought it was pretty sealed environment at this point, but
it's
makes sense.
And that was a while. It was a while back. I mean, there's different.
I was just trying to put together what you were saying. I'm like, so who's coming in and out? I'm sure they don't have vendors in and out anymore like they used to.
No. Yeah, we don't let anyone in the buildings. Those type of things. Let me not put it that way. Parents are able to come with appointment. Anyone can come with. People can come with an appointment who should be there. So, but the vendors and those type of things, right now students aren't in the building. Certain things can be done after hours or before hours anyway. So all of the cleaning and disinfecting, that's been taking place since last December.
Are you guys, how's budget-wise look this year? I know that you guys are always fighting budgets. Have you guys been given enough money to fight this to effectively?
You can always use more money. We just always have to use what we have effectively. We know that because of the Chapter 70 spending, funding, we had received, I hate to say an additional because it's something we should have had earlier, but there was, an add into our budget of about $6 million. So the state has had, through federal money, lots of grants and supports that have come through. So I think we've been taken care of pretty well. Part of it is, I think, depending upon how much longer this lasts, it may be another different conversation in 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
But right now with all the PPE equipment, masks and all the other things that the nurses need, right now we're in good shape.
What are you guys talking about with windows being open throughout the winter?
But they don't have to be open.
Okay.
So we try to tell that was the purpose of getting the ventilation machines in there and pushing things around. Now, granted, if someone feels more comfortable, they want their window open, they're not going to freeze. By all means, you could do that in normal time anyway. But we told people we're in December when the temperature first started dropping, we were clear. You do not have to leave the windows open. If it's more of a feeling, a personal feeling that you want to have it open, then by all means do that. Don't freeze. You can close it.
Yeah, don't freeze your kids either.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't want students in there wearing coats because we think we have to have the windows open. No, that's not the case.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the big things that you see in the Facebook public court.
Yeah.
You see a lot on Facebook. I don't know. You must have a secret thing. I haven't seen you there yet, so you must have one of those double secret profiles. So.
I don't have time to do the normal stuff.
Yeah, the public opinion on Facebook's tough. So you have those type of questions, and and it was honestly that one came from me. Like you hear about that, the window's going to be open. Like really? You see these kids riding around on the bus at 7 a.m. the other day. And the windows are wide open. I'm like, gosh.
Definitely having the windows open helps.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's going to help move that air through. But in those classrooms, they definitely don't have to have those.
I think I told somebody, they're like, oh, you got to have the windows open. I'm like, why? No, they said it helps. I'm like, okay. Have you seen the long-term studies on whether or not it helped or it works? Or is it effective? The guy's like, well, yeah, they said it. I said, you're not answering my question. Is it effective? Exactly. We don't know yet if it is.
Exactly.
Quite frankly.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So my opinion of saying like, dude, don't freeze my kid.
Exactly.
Is just as good as your opinion of saying, well, they said it's good. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm like, let's come in the middle somewhere where we're not having kids with snotty icicles that are hanging out of their nose, It's funny because now we got old teachers in the comment section. I think I had you or you had me. Back to MCAS. MCAS is still on.
As of right now. Like I said, there have been some shifts, but MCAS itself has not been canceled.
Okay. One last, Scotty asked the process if they change their mind and want to transition from remote back into school or vice versa.
Mm-hmm. So they need to reach out to their principal at their school. They need to understand that it's it's about staffing. So you can't do it and think it's going to happen tomorrow. It's probably going to take a couple of weeks at this point. Okay. And especially now with the number, because of where we are with high contact tracing and all those type of things, and trying to avoid combining classes, because I know some parents they're a little disappointed because to go back into it, you might not have the same teacher. So if you wanted to go from your teacher you had in your building and then you shift it to the distance platform, you may not get, in some cases as we went on, you weren't going to get the same teacher.
Yeah, of course.
So that's the thing.
Just be prepared. It might not be the same. You might not be going into the same situation or back to the same situation.
Now, if they're going from the distance back to their building, most likely they will get their same.
They will get their same teacher?
You should be able to get the same teacher.
Excellent. I think that's it on my end. We got, gosh, you're already 10 minutes past where I thought you'd be. So
so we're good.
I don't want you to get yelled at by one of your 10 assistants that tells you where to be at all times. I'm sure you get pulled on all directions.
Yeah, dude. But this is always good. That's why I'm always interested to see what questions we have and those type of things.
Yeah, no, it was a pretty mild day today. There was a lot of views. I think everything. So we got another flu clinic coming up. We did the explanation, folks. If you want to look back on the reason why we're starting full. Not full, but the
temporary distancing.
The temporary distancing starting on the 11th. We'll kind of go back to the plan as it is right now, currently. Well, not today. Yeah. Today, tomorrow, and the next day are fully remote for everybody. Yep. So back to last week's plan. And it makes sense. A lot of people are going to go home and visit. Just be responsible. I was supposed to go to lunch today with someone, right? And I think you kind of get a feel where I am for where I stand, exactly. Right? In terms of this whole thing. But I respect people. So my buddy calls me up and said, I was in contact with somebody that just tested positive. I said, hey, that's enough. Let's. He goes, I'm all right if you are. I don't feel any symptoms. I said, no, I'm not going to go. Yeah. I got to go see my father-in-law for the holidays. Yep. He's 70 years old. I'm good. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's a guy. If he were a horse, he would have been put down already. He's got so many ailments. So I'm not gonna be the nail in the coffin. Don't I said. we can do lunch when I get back, but, best of luck. I hope you come back negative. I'm going to test before and test after we get back, and, as much as you still have to respect it, and that's all I tell people. Like, I'm on the side of science, and I'm on the side of personal liberty as well. So, just be kind to each other. Understand, no, this isn't ideal for anybody, no matter what you think. It's not. No. I know personally I've been angry at the town of Dartmouth for some of the things they've done in their school system with my kids. And people are saying, run for school committee. And my wife's like, you run for something? And I just don't, you just got to kind of find the balance, as hard as it may be at times. And I'm sure you have to do it too. There's some personal stuff that you can't let in.
Yeah, it is. And it is hard. And I think there was no blueprint for this. And we're already in a situation in education where, lots of people want to tell us how they think we should do it because, they went to school and say, hey, we did this and we did that. And I'm thinking, some things haven't changed, but then a lot of things have.
Let me cut you in on that. I'm going to just, I always try to let you talk. One thing this has proven, I stink at teaching, and I give my kids' teachers credit. You know what I mean? I love Miss Pickering. I love Miss Cam. They got it all.
Oh, yeah.
Especially my little one, my daughter, my 5-year-old. Miss Cam, here you go.
Patience and communicate. I mean, there's so much. I mean, the content, people have the content, but what it comes down to is, we're thinking about patience, understanding, that compassion piece, and, really looking at, again, how we do education. How are we going to learn from this? And really thinking of these days, and as we go into the holidays, how are people really celebrating? How are we, what are our thoughts that we had last year at this time? How do we make new memories? Because at some point, we'll tell people, during 2020 and COVID, we became this and we did this, and it is, we'll be able to. There's no looking back and laughing. You're looking back and you really dig deep, and there will be some things that we'll be able to smile about in terms of what we did learn. Yeah. How much better off we are because we really took it seriously. And
you speak in my language, man.
We talk about
bad situations. You gotta learn every single day. You get punched in the mouth. You gotta learn from that punch in the mouth. Yeah. Literally, you do. What it felt like. Why you don't want to do it again. How you gonna duck next time. And that's how life is. And
thinking about that, I always look at how do you avoid getting punched in the mouth?
Yeah, seriously.
How are we being smart right now? Yeah. So we're talking about those masks and those type of things. What exactly are we doing? We're doing now. So, but I wish everyone a happy holidays.
I pick on you for the Cowboys.
And they won.
And you guys still are in the playoffs, and my Patriots are out, man.
Is that perseverance? You lost Dak Prescott in the beginning. Had another running back step up the other day. I mean, again,
Pollard kicked by us. They got me 20-something points on my fantasy. I might get to the semifinals with them. I mean, to the championship. I'm in the semifinals.
And as silly as it is, because our team, my New Bedford team, will talk about things. We use the sports analogies, but there's so many parallels to it. Being an athlete in college and you do all these things. It is. You look at the opportunity. Are you ready for the opportunity? And I look at what we're dealing with now. How did we prepare? Not really knowing what exactly to prepare for, but we were prepared to unveil and do a lot of other things that, some places they weren't in the same position that we were.
Yeah, a larger district, you were ahead of it. Dartmouth's a smaller district, and it seems like they waited till the 11th hour to start making some moves. And I was quite disappointed, to be honest with you. There's a lot of people that moved to certain districts for
certain things,
the education system, right? And you're just like, it's a great system. My kids go to this school, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you kind of get disappointed, And
we have
you guys, I know we're on it. I know you were, and I knew you. And he's been coming on 3-4 times since COVID. And it's been, hey, this is what we're planning for. This is what we're doing. You guys, I've said it last time. I'll say it again. I'm fortunate. Merry Christmas to everybody. Merry Christmas to you and your family, whatever, happy holidays, happy just tomorrow, today, whatever it is that you celebrate. Be kind to everybody and understand that nobody's having fun with this, and we're all trying to just get through it together.
Exactly.
Anything else, last second?
Yeah, that's it.
All right.
I appreciate it.
And football, any thoughts on football for you, for the team? We still planning on February?
That's the plan. That's the plan. All winter sports started on the 14th. That other season that fits in there, February, March, as of right now, we should be ready to go.
Excellent. Sports are good for kids, I just signed up my son for flag, our first football. I can't wait. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and everything in between. Be kind. Try to win today, and we'll get through it together. See you around next year, probably. Bye, everybody.